Dear students, myself, Dr. Anand Sarup Pandey, Professor, BBA Department, GIMS Engineering Management Technical Campus, Greater Noida. In the subject Business Ethics and Corporate Social Responsibility, today I will take the topic that is stress management. So in stress management, I will take up the meaning of stress, causes of stress, and habits to relieve stress. So let us take the first item, that is meaning of stress. Stress is a general term applied to various psychologic, that is mental, and physiologic, that is bodily pressures experienced or felt by people throughout their lives. Stress is defined as a state of physiological and psychological imbalance resulting from the disparity between situational demand and the individual's ability and motivation to meet those needs. So in this slide, I had explained the meaning of stress. The very first thing is that the stress is a general term, and this term is applicable to psychological as well as physiological pressures, physiological phenomena. This is number one. That stress is a general term and it is applicable to both mental as well as physiological phenomena. Number two, stress is always present 24/7 and throughout the individual's life. This is number two. It is always present 24/7 to each and every individual throughout their life. And number three, it is the state of psychological and physiological imbalance which occurs on account of the disparity between the situational demand, any situational demand if it persists and the individual was not in a position to meet that particular situational demand, then certainly stress will come. So this is point number three, that stress is a state of both physiological as well as psychological imbalance which occurs on account of the disparity between the situational demand and any individual's ability and motivation to meet those demands. If an individual is successful to meet the situational demand, then we can say that that individual is stress-free. Otherwise, if situational demand is very high and the individual's ability to meet that particular situational demand is very low, then this results into stress. So definitely stress can be positive or negative. Can be considered as positive and good when the situation or situational demand offers a chance or opportunity to an individual to gain something. In that situation, the stress will act as a motivator to perform well, to perform to the highest level. On the other hand, stress can be considered as a negative if an individual faces social, physical, organizational, and emotional problems. Means the level of situational demand is high and that particular individual was not in a position to meet the situational demand on account of social, physical, organizational, and emotional problem, then that stress is called as the negative stress. Now, after realizing, after understanding the basic concept of stress, let us study what are the various possible causes of stress. The very first cause of stress is career concern. Here, if an employee feels that, and why I can say employee, if an individual feels that, the individual may be an employee, may be a student, if he feels that he is very much behind in the corporate ladder, then he may experience stress. If he appears that there are no opportunities for self-growth, then he may experience stress. And consequently, unfulfilled career expectations are the significant cause of stress. So this point is very, very clear that in an organization, if an employee observes that there is no scope for self-growth, or if he is incompetent, then he may experience or she may experience stress. This is number one. Number two, role ambiguity. Role ambiguity occurs when the individual does not know what he is supposed to do in the organization. What is the actual job specification? He does not know. Then his tasks and responsibilities are unclear. So employee was not or is not sure what is expected to do. Then this creates a confusion in the mind of the employee or worker, and hence it results in stress. So this is called as role ambiguity. Third, rotating work shifts. When stress may occur in those individuals who work on different work shifts. Employees may be expected to work on day shift for some days and then on the night shift. That may create problems in adjusting to the shift timings, and it can affect not only personal life but also family life of the employee. What does this mean? This means that work-life balance if it disturbs on account of different work shifts, then an stress is to be arised to that particular employee in the organization, and this is called as the rotating work shift. Number 4, role conflict. What does this mean? It occurs when people have different expectations from the person performing a particular role. It can also occur if the job is not as per expectation, or when a job demands a certain type of behavior that is against the person's moral values. So that is called as the role conflict. Number 5, occupational demands. What comes under occupational demand? That some jobs are more demanding and some jobs are less demanding. So those jobs that involve risk and danger, they are more stressful, and when a research is to be conducted, the findings of that research indicates that the job that causes stress needs constant monitoring of equipments and devices, unpleasant physical conditions, and so on. So whenever an employee is doing the job, when the situation is very, very unpleasant, the physical conditions are unpleasant, or the job constantly requires monitoring of equipment in the production department of an organization, then in that situation, as per research, the job becomes tedious and hence causes stress. So this is called as the occupational demands. Number 6, lack of participation in decision making. How? Here many experienced employees, they observe that, they feel that the management should consult them on matters affecting their jobs. In reality, the superiors hardly ask the concerned employees before taking a decision. That develops a feeling of being neglected, and which may lead to stress. So what does this mean? This means that whenever the superior or your immediate boss takes any particular decision without consulting their subordinates, and the subordinates, they feel neglected, and ultimately those subordinates who feels neglected, this situation leads to stress, and hence it is called as the lack of participation in decision making. Number 7, work overload. Now this is very, very clear. Whenever there is an excessive work in the organization, excessive work leads to excessive workload. And whenever there is an excessive workload, this will always leads to stress on account of high degree of upward pressure and higher degree of expectation by the superior from their subordinates. So ultimately this is called as the work overload. And this work overload, it is of two forms. It takes two forms. Number 1, the qualitative work overload, which implies that the performance or performing a job that is complicated or beyond the employee's capacity. Every employee possesses different degree of capacity. And when you increase the work, and if it is beyond the capacity of that employee, then your qualitative work suffers negatively, and which ultimately increases the tension or the stress to the employee. And the second form is the quantitative work overload, which is the result of many activities performed in a prescribed time limit. So there is a time limit, and lot many quantitative works is to be provided to the employee in the organization, and the employee in that situation becomes overloaded, work overloaded, and hence this may lead to the tension and stress. So this is called as the work overload. Here, poor working conditions. Here the employee may be subjected to poor working conditions, which include what? Bad lighting and ventilation, unhygienic sanitation facilities, excessive noise and dust, presence of toxic gases and fumes, inadequate safety measures, and so on. All these unpleasant situations create physiological as well as psychological imbalances in the human mind, and which ultimately cause stress. So this is called as the poor working conditions. Number 9, interpersonal and intergroup conflict. Interpersonal conflict and intergroup conflicts, they occur on account of the perceptual differences between or among individuals or employees, differences in their attitudes, differences in the values and beliefs between an employee or individual or among employee or individual, that is between two or more than two individuals and groups. And those conflicts can be the source of stress, and hence it is called as the interpersonal and intergroup conflict. So this is number 9. So these 9 groups or headings are considered as the basic causes to arise stress inside the organization for an individual and to the group of individuals. So definitely stress is a disease which ultimately impact the organizational growth as well as individual growth. So definitely there is a need to minimize or remove in totality the stress. So my next topic under stress is to identify the habits, to encourage those habits which will relieve stress. So what are those habits? Number 1, there is a need of regular meditation. Number 2, there is a need of physical exercise. So regular meditation improves the mental phenomena. Regular meditation leads to peace and happiness. And the physical exercise, it boosts the physiological phenomena. Third habit, to take balanced diet. Fourth, thinking should not be diverse, it should be focused. So focus thinking. Fifth habit, to control anger. The degree of anger should be minimized. It should be controlled. So control of anger. Number sixth habit is to manage the depression situation. Whenever there is a situation of depression, the individual should have the capacity to manage that particular depression. Because depression always leads to stress. The seventh habit is to always maintain calmness in the stressful conditions or situations. Eighth habit, always becomes positive attitude towards life. Because life is meaningful, life is colorful, life is precious, and life is ultimately full of pleasure. This sort of attitude is to be developed inside, and hence it is called as the positive attitude towards life. So this is the eighth habit. And the ninth habit is to create harmony towards self as well as to others. So these are 9 habits which ultimately relieve stress. If one can follow these 9 habits regularly, then the one, after following those habits, always be stress free in their life. He remains happy and he distributes happiness in the society. So it is very, very important to focus and follow these 9 habits. Thank you.